Touchdown! Kansas City! Damian Williams runs to immortality and will be remembered forever in the Chiefs' kingdom.
The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
It's time for Dodger Baseball.
Welcome in to the Brawl Network podcast. Here's your host.
And welcome everybody to Wednesday's live episode of TBN Podcast. It's me, your producer, Jay Andrews at UPJ33. It's the normal Wednesday crew. You've got Sam Stevenson covering your Bears. You can find him at Twitter at SJSteve9, and your Ravens coverage. It's Jacob Vogel at Real Jake Vogel on the Twitter. What's up, guys?
What's up? I'm so excited for this episode. I went back, listened to last week's. I'm pumped.
Oh, well, you know, last week's episode was pretty bomb, so let's build on that. But I think this one's going to knock it out of the park. I know the lineup tonight. I know what you guys got planned. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be interesting for everybody out there listening. But before we get to the big thing, why don't you guys go ahead and let's get some training camp updates from each of your teams. Sam, I think you got the most itch in your pants there, so why don't you start off there, Mr. Teddy Bear?
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, Bears training camp, a lot of stories coming out right now. Obviously, the big one is the quarterback competition, who's going to start week 1, Foles and Trubisky. Let's start with that a little bit. So a clip came out on Monday of about 7 seconds of Mitch throwing a pretty normal pass to Jimmy Graham, and Bears Twitter exploded for some reason. We had a lot of people overanalyzing the clip, a lot of people being really critical about those people. My biggest takeaway, and I don't know if you guys are feeling the same thing, but football is coming back very slowly, and this is the first time we've seen our teams practice, even just competitively, in so long. So from a Bears perspective, I was just excited to see anything, but I was noticing just a lot of Bears Twitter got really critical about this. A lot of people overhyping Mitch up, kind of a common theme we've seen before. Obviously, we're not totally sure who's leading the Bears competition, but from you guys, how are we feeling just seeing clips of your team practicing again?
It's super exciting for me. I understand why everybody was criticizing Jimmy Graham. Has been pretty terrible over the past couple years, so people are just jabbing at Bears fans, but it's definitely exciting to see your own team getting after it. What about you, Jay?
Well, I always get the itch, and unlike most people, I actually truly missed the preseason just because it's football. It was okay because at my age with kids, wife, right, football is my passion. I love to analyze it just like you guys, just like you young cats, but it's also transitioned to a bigger part of my family life. And so the preseason was an opportunity where I didn't have to sit down, take notes, be really invested in the game, and we could sit down and enjoy a Packer game and players that the kids have gotten to talk to and I've gotten to talk to, and they, Dad, you talked to that guy and he told me how, and I can't do that as much in the season because it's more critical to do our jobs, to pay attention. So I missed that in the preseason, quite honestly. So I always have this itch. I'm always hyped up this time, but I truly do miss the preseason from the continuity of the family and that time I get to spend with my kids and family where I don't have to do my job so seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I just missed football. And obviously I'm not a huge fan of the preseason, but there are games and you love seeing those training camp guys who make the roster because of a couple good preseason games. You love seeing those matchups where a guy gets the edge because of a good preseason game, and just it's football at the end of the day. Jay, I don't know if you want to say anything else to that, but
yeah, I missed preseason, but I really just miss football in general. Training camp videos, any sort of live football content that I can get, I'm trying to get my hands on. So I'm with you guys in that boat.
And speaking of training camp, another big story that came out. So Cordell Patterson signed with the Bears last year, kind of as a special teams guy. Could call him the Swiss Army knife. He returns kicks, he runs the ball, he receives the ball. Started reporting to the running backs instead of the wide receivers. So obviously I know you guys, I'm not sure how heavily invested you are in following all the Bears stuff that's going on, but what I do find interesting about this is if Patterson, gets rostered as a running back, who does that leave for that extra wide receiver spot? And actually, tweet came out today, and it's loading, so give me 1 second. The Bears are adding wide receiver Rodney Adams, a 2017 fifth-round pick of the Vikings. Adam retired in April of 2018, but was reinstated this past January. Was looking this guy up. Apparently, he quit football to start a YouTube channel. So an interesting personality for sure, but what I like about this is that if Patterson gets listed as a running back, I'm excited to see if they can bring another, speedster as a wide receiver depth. Besides Robinson and obviously they signed Ted Ginn this year, the Bears. A lot of question marks with the Bears wide receiver group. Especially around Anthony Miller. Will this third year be his year? But pretty interesting. I think Patterson's a great guy, a lot of speed. I'm hoping he can get more involved in the offense. But I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. But that was another big training camp story that I've been seeing recently.
Yeah, I saw a tweet about it the other day. Didn't mean that much to me, but in his opportunities in New England, I thought Patterson looked really good as a running back, so it makes sense. I don't know if it really matters if he's rostered as a running back or a wide receiver because he's just kind of like offensive weapon at this point. But that could be good for the Bears depth chart, possibly adding another guy. I really like Anthony Miller, but I know there's issues there, and you also have the quarterback, Trubisky. So yeah. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
I mean, there's not much more to say even about Mitch at this point. Whoever wins the quarterback position earns it. I think they'll be on a tight leash regardless. I'm always going to be on the edge right now saying that Mitch is going to start week 1, but maybe not necessarily finish the season just because, again, we talked about it, the loss of preseason definitely takes a hit on a guy like Foles. I have been seeing some things that Foles has been transitioning with the offense more quickly than expected, but I just think I don't know if you go with a guy right away who might have not necessarily had enough time to work with the first team guys. And I actually did a Brawl Network article on this with another guy with the Brawl, Lucas Berry. We kind of debated the quarterback situation, who we think was going to start. So my thoughts are out there if you want to go check those out. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else.
And he doesn't have anything else, so he froze. So, Jake, you're up.
I thought I froze for a second.
No.
All right, Ravens training camp has been going on pretty steady so far. The wide receiver is always the talk of the town in Baltimore. Everybody wants the flashy position to improve. Hollywood looks really good so far. Devin Duvernay has been showing out. Willie Snead trimmed down a little bit this offseason, added a little bit of speed. And there is a group of Ravens fans that are really on this James Prochet train. I looked at James as well as Devin when the Ravens were about to add them in the draft, and I was impressed with both of them, especially for their hands. But they've been showing up. It's been really good. And the most interesting battle in camp probably is the offensive line. The whole interior of the offensive line is up for grabs. So there's like 5 or 6 guys that could potentially start. So that's where we're at.
You want to talk about sorry. Jay, go ahead.
No, ask your question.
You want to talk about what happened on Twitter today?
I was about to bring it up. Thank you, Sam. I was about to say, what about that little bit of trade news you had there, man? And,
I got bamboozled like a lot of people. A fake Adam Schefter account made a lot of Ravens fans very happy and then very sad in a matter of minutes or seconds, depending on who you were.
Yeah, it happens.
It was Yannick and Ngakoue.
You gotta watch the. We're not even gonna say it because I don't even want to put it out there out of your mouth. So I'm forbidding you to even say what the tweet actually was because I know you've deleted it by now. Yeah, and it's one of those things where gotta watch the blue check mark, Jacob. Gotta watch the blue check mark, man. It happens to us once at all, and you know what? It's a good thing that your boy Dave at announcer Dave S. your fellow Ravens buddy came to your rescue to keep you from being the butt of all the Brawl Network jokes forevermore.
Yep.
You should thank him and send him a cookie.
Thank you to Dave, my Ravens Brawl buddy.
Sorry, Jake. I just had to bring it up because
I was going to do it
gosh.
anyway.
I was about to say you had a glimmer in your eye. I was like, if I'm not going to bring it up, he is.
Oh yeah. Well, see,
I
you
mean,
already learned.
It would be interesting if you ended up going to your guys' team. I think you don't need any more. You don't need any more good defensive players.
No,
And they got J.K. Dobbins, who's going to be a beast in that offense. Beware. If I get to draft him in the fantasy draft this Saturday night we're about to have, it's dunsies for you. If the roster if I get the roster I want and have in my head, I'm gonna kill everybody. I'm gonna just kill everybody.
Roster I want. I'm gonna kill everyone too. Everyone goes in with the mentality.
All right, I digress. Let's get to the meat of the show so we don't waste any time because you guys got a lot to get to in this period of time. So let's start this off. I will kind of mediate this so that you guys don't try to fist fight each other through Skype. And so, how do you guys want to start this? Do you want to flip a coin? Do you just want to go oldest goes first? Or how do you want to decide who gets to draft the player first? And I'll keep track of who you all draft.
It doesn't matter to me, Sam.
It was kind of more your idea. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Do we want to start with wide receivers or just pass catchers in general? How do we want to do this?
I kind of have both pass catchers, not excluding running backs, and I have pass defenders. If you want to go offense, I'll go defense. We can always switch after that.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I have the AFC North, and Sam is going to do the NFC North, and we're making our all-star teams with all 4 rosters. So we got Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Tyler Boyd to choose from. What are we doing? 3 wide sets, or are we just?
Yep, 3 wides, 3 CBs because it's a 3 wide receiver nickel package dominant.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Odell, Juju, and Tyler Boyd. I know 2 of those guys are a little bit more slot types, but I'm just going with who I think best represents the AFC North right now. And then for tight end, I'm just going to add Mark Andrews in there. I'm just going to go single tight end.
It's a pretty solid offensive lineup there. Yeah, I mean, I think you could honestly probably pick any 2 of those 3 guys. You got a pretty decent receiver group. Did you pick 2 receivers or 3, just so that I don't butcher this?
3.
You get 3 receivers, 3 cornerbacks.
Did you go tight end as one of your receivers, or is that a separate thing?
That's
tight
a separate
end
position.
Added on, so four players so far.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm picking defense, so I guess I can't really say anything. All right, so went through the NFC North pass defenders. Couple of key guys left the division this year, Darius Slay being one of them. I don't know if you want to say Xavier Rhodes is elite anymore or not, but he was another guy. Trey Waynes as well. And I hate to do this, but he was a good cornerback last year, and it pains me that he's on this team. But Jared Alexander from the Packers is one of them. I got Kyle Fuller opposite of him. Kind of covering the backfield more is Eddie Jackson, duh. And then at my nickel, this one was the toughest one, actually. I went with Buster Skrines. So Alexander, physical, athletic, good footwork and technique. He's a good cornerback. Sucks he's on the Packers, but he was a key part of that pass defense for them. Eddie Jackson, I think you can make an argument maybe for Harrison Smith, but when Eddie's able to play in that natural safety position, he's a ball hawk. And obviously with him kind of transitioning back to that natural spot this year, Chuck Pagano's defense, I'm expecting hopefully a similar season like 2018. Kyle Fuller, obviously didn't have a great year compared to 2018 that he did last year. But the guy still had 3 interceptions, 71 solo tackles, didn't allow a ton of receptions. So I still would like him across from Alexander. And then, yeah, like I said, nickel was kind of tough here, but I went with Buster Skrine just because he's reliable. He's durable, too, decent in coverage, didn't miss a single game. I don't think he's missed a single game in 3 consecutive seasons. He's a guy who can cover pretty decent. I don't know how he would do against your guys' passing groups, but compared to some of the other guys in the NFC North, I didn't love my other options, but that's a team I'm rolling with.
What was your last one there, Sam?
Buster Skrine.
Oh, I had him. All right. All right, so far we have on offense for Jacob, we have wide receivers OBJ, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tyler Boyd, tight end Andrews, and then on defense to counteract that, you've got Jair Alexander, Kyle Fuller, Buster Skrine, and Eddie Jackson playing the deep. That's a damn good secondary. I think that secondary's athletic prowess is going to stymie his offensive. I think I'll give the edge to the NFC North defense in those picks there versus his. There's just a lot of attitude, speed, and athleticism with those four secondary players that you just took out of the North there, Sam. Proud of you. Those were good choices.
There's definitely a weak point there. I mean, Buster Skrine or Skrine, as you say, is probably your weakest link.
And Eddie Jackson will make up. That's the great eraser.
Yeah, Eddie Jackson's great. I feel like while we're doing this exercise, you might as well pick two safeties because I was thinking two safeties as well. So go ahead.
Safety listed. Harrison Smith.
Smith. There you go. That's a great pairing right there.
Yeah, I went with a nickel just because I feel like while obviously most defenses don't start out with that, you see a lot more nickel packages. I think Skrine had a lot of time on the field last year too. Plus, he's a guy who can go on the outside as well. He's played both outside and nickel, so he's got in terms of position, he can kind of move all over the field. So, but yeah, if I had to go with two safeties, I'll go Harrison Smith.
Very solid. Do you want to do your pass catchers, and then I will finish that up?
It's a snake draft. Yes, it's a snake draft.
Love to.
All right, so Sam, you're up offensively. Who we got wide receivers?
All right. So, my wide receivers, I think actually this one didn't take me as long. Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, Kenny Galladay, and then this was the one, the tight end. This was tough. I'm just going to be very honest here. NFC North tight ends, not great, but I went with Kyle Rudolph. So, Devontae Adams is the best receiver in this division, hands down. He was targeted 29% of the total offensive reps for the Packers last year. Great speed technique. He's plagued to the Bears secondary for way too long. Opposite of him, obviously, Allen Robinson. He's proven to be able to produce even with some shaky quarterback play. I mean, the guy made Chase Daniel look like a legend. And he was one of the highest graded receivers in contested targets. I mean, the guy gets the ball even when you're covering him. And then this was tough with Galladay. I wanted to pick Thielen from the Vikings, but Galladay is just a deep threat. When he gets open in that field, I mean, he just goes. He's like a rocket. And then
NFL touchdown leader last year. I mean, it's not a bad argument.
11? Yes. Yeah, 11, yes. Yeah. And then tight end, again, not a great position group for the NFC North. I went with Rudolph. He's a decent red zone guy. He's good. He's decent in receptions, I guess. But I don't know. That was probably my weakest link there, but I feel really good about that receiver group.
Very nice. Very, very solid. The tight end is the weak point in the NFC North for sure. I probably would have gone TJ Hawkinson, but I know it's really early to say that because he was a rookie last year.
Actually, with the choice of Rudolph, Rudolph isn't flashy, but he's the NFC North version of Jason Witten. He's just always open and always catches the ball.
Yeah.
He's like going to give you 5 yards all the time and 2 catches. He converts the third down. Like, he's not flashy. You're not going to pick him in fantasy and get great numbers. But as far as a functional one, he is the best tight end because he's the most reliable, most consistent in the entire division. So I can't blame Sam. It's just a default pick because you can't think of anybody else that is reliable at the position in the entire division, and that's just because there's a lot of really talented guys there, but they're raw and young. Irv Smith Jr., Jay Sternberger, Bob Tonyan,
Yeah. I was just going to say, I mean, Hawkinson, I was thinking about it, but again, he's young, totally not unproven. I would have loved to have picked a younger guy, but if we're going with the best of the best, I just feel like Rudolph is a solid enough pick with that receiving group that he would be reliable. Again, it's kind of like the Buster Skrine pick I had earlier. Not going to be the best guy in that group, but he's not going to be the reason why a team loses a game.
Yeah, yes, for sure.
All right, you're up, Jacob. You got defense AFC North now to counteract his offense.
Yeah, so I got to go to the Ravens and this is not even being a homer. Marlon Humphrey, my CB1 here, he's locked down. He's about to be one of the highest paid corners in the NFL. Then we got Marcus Peters, Tavon Young to choose from, as well as Denzel Ward from the Browns. And then there's a couple guys you could name on the Steelers and the Bengals, but we'll just stick with the Ravens and Browns players. I'll go Ward here as one of the corners, and then I'm going to go Marcus Peters just because of the turnover production. I know some people have problems with him. Some people say he's burnt toast, but that's not what I saw in a Ravens uniform, and that's not what he was in Kansas City early on. So I trust in what I see and the instincts that he has. He's been complimented as one of the smartest cornerbacks Wink Martindale, the Ravens defensive coordinator, has ever seen. So I'm going to go with that group for my cornerbacks. And then Minka Fitzpatrick from the Steelers and Earl Thomas as my safeties.
That's a solid group. I like Minka a lot. When he got traded to the Steelers, that was such a good trade for them. It's a solid group.
Yeah.
Who was your other safety? Fitzpatrick, and who's the other one?
Earl Thomas.
Thomas. All right. Okay, well, if you look at this directly across the board the way I am here now, it's a great matchup. This is a much more fair matchup on both sides than the AFC offense versus the NFC defense, right? So let's put it in this context, guys, and analyze this a little bit. So the way you have, if you look at, you got Sam's Devontae Adams would be matched up with your Marlon Humphrey, the best of the best, right? Then I think that you would put Denzel Ward on Allen Robinson, right? Because he's a little better of a route runner, and Ward is a little better of a just pure man coverage guy. All right? Then I believe you have to have, because of the big physical receiver, you have to have a physical guy that can, get nasty. With Galladay, well, that's Marcus Peters. So I think the matchups across the board there are pretty good. And then Rudolph is going to be there, but he's always going to just have to get that ball with the safeties that are going to be able to cover him. He might be able to get open, but there's not going to be any explosive plays coming from that tight end position. No busted coverage with both Fitzpatrick and Thomas back there. So this is a much better matchup on paper across the board, AFC defense versus NFC offense, than the opposite, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the AFC wide receivers match up pretty well, but I know both of you guys really know the NFC North more than you know the AFC North, with respect to how much football you watch. Jay?
Well, here's my thinking. Juju is not a speed burner, and so I think Buster, he's more of a slot guy. Buster's good enough to limit him. OBJ is a home run hitter. Jair Alexander is that's the perfect matchup. He's got the attitude that would absolutely, and he would get in OBJ's head so quick because he's good enough to stop him a few times and cocky enough the way Prime was to get in the receiver's head and start making him be frustrated, right? So, and then Boyd and Fuller, Boyd's physical, but again, Fuller, man press, really good man press guy, a bigger corner, longer, matches up, and Boyd isn't quite of that caliber receiver as I would compare Fuller to the caliber CB. So, I mean, by name and fantasy stats and stuff, you're absolutely right, Jacob, but when you break down the tape and where those guys are, the only matchup I think that you would definitely win more than 50% of the time is the Juju versus screen.
Oh,
yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to exploit wherever you can, and football is all about matchups. So, but I think it's close so far, and we'll get into we'll get into some other position groups, either right now or we can save some of those for next time.
Whoa! Next week. We gotta keep people interested. Gotta keep them.
We were gonna do this a 2-part show because we want to keep them on the edge because this is pretty good. Now, is there any honorable mentions that you would like to have, like let's give you guys, just for the sake of this game, let's give you guys each 2 practice squad guys. It doesn't matter, just open position. You get 2 guys, any position of the ones we just drafted, just to throw on your roster as an extra. In case somebody comes up with COVID, we'll play that game.
Okay, so these guys have to be like okay. Hang on, give me a second.
Oh, see, I put him on the spot now, and now he's got it.
That's a good question. I gotta look up.
I can go if you're still looking, Sam.
Yep, go ahead, Jake.
All right, so if injuries weren't a thing, AJ Green, obviously. But since they are, I'll go Jarvis Landry to give me another slot guy that just has reliable hands at wide receiver. And should I go?
I like the Landry pick, by the way, because that guy is a reception yak beast. He reminds me a lot of Anquan Bolden towards the end of his career, but just younger.
I guess I'll go another receiving option. I'll go Austin Hooper. I don't think he's going to have the biggest year with the Browns just because of how many guys they have, but he's a really solid tight end. If anything happened to Andrews, I'd feel pretty good with Austin Hooper.
So what we're getting here is Jake has decided to go the Mike McCarthy route and say defense be damned. Y'all get hurt, that you're gonna have to score more. All right, Sam, you're up.
All right, so if I had to go, I picked one of each. I say Darnell Savage if I had to pick another cornerback. And then if I had to pick another receiver, I'm going to go with Thielen. Again, he was on the edge with Galladay. I'd probably pick Thielen. And I think, honestly, those two could probably swap out. I mean, especially now that Stephon Diggs is gone, I'm expecting Thielen to have a pretty good year this year for the Vikings. And he's been awesome for them recently. So he would definitely be, like, wide receiver 4, first spot practice squad, the guy that sits around coach waiting to get in, like anything could happen kind of a guy. But those are my two that I would pick for this practice squad.
Savage is an interesting pick because he flashed, but he didn't quite live up to what everybody thought. Now, some of that had to do with injury, and it kind of took away. It was an ankle injury, so it kind of hindered him even though he's playing. But he did flash the way you would expect, but the consistency wasn't there from what we expected of the tape and all the analysis we did as a draft pick and how excited we got. So that's an interesting pick because you had King, you had some other guys, in the Bears secondary that aren't too bad, and you went with Savage. So that interests me. What was your kind of overall reason? Why over King or Adrian Amos or somebody that's maybe a little more proven, I guess, instead of having I understand the upside, but why not go with the proven guy there, Sam?
I to be honest, kind of what you said. Again, youth, flashes, and I think, you go with a younger guy here in this case just because you've got some pretty proven guys ahead of him. And again, I definitely will say that I'm not huge into Packers stuff in following you guys, and I choose not to for many reasons. I did like Savage, and I think when he did flash, he looked like a really good cornerback. I think injuries definitely plagued him a little bit. And I think considering what we're building here with this roster, you take a guy like him, you stash him away, he's kind of learning behind a couple of pretty solid vets. And, if he has to kind of plug in or whatever, we've seen instances where he can cover pretty well. It's kind of also a gamble at this point for me. I think it'd be kind of, high risk, high reward at this case, just to kind of spice it up a little bit. But he was kind of in one of my lists for considering a guy to pick if I had to pick somebody else. But I don't know. I just got a good feeling about him, which isn't a good thing from a Bears perspective. But from my roster's perspective, I don't know. I get a feeling that he's going to pick it up this year.
I sure do hope so. As far as covering the Packers. All right, now the Landry pick. That's an interesting one because you double up on your offensive positions, Jacob, and you leave yourself open to injury. But you also, with the Landry and Hooper, neither one are explosive athletes, but they're reliable chain movers. So
they're very reliable.
Was that your thing? What's your logic in doubling up on the backup players on offense and leaving your defense out there to dry?
I have a lot of faith in the defense. I know COVID can come for anyone, but I was just gonna double up on the position group that was already lacking a little bit in your words. So I figured I'd just solidify it a little bit with Jarvis and Austin.
I think they're two solid solid guys to pick up, honestly, because again, they're that Kyle Rudolph type of guy. They're chain movers. They're gonna catch the ball. They're gonna be there. They're gonna be in the right spot at the right time. So they are reliable. I just like to pick on you guys all the damn time.
I feel like
All
we're
right.
more this time.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about this. Who was, while you were doing your list, let's start with you, Sam. Who are some players where you're going through your list and you were just like, oh hell no, that guy can't make my list if you paid me?
I mean, I wanted to pick. I mean, honestly, I tried to stay as far away from your team as possible. One guy actually that I got frustrated with because I wanted to pick him, but I just couldn't, was Alan Lazard. I picked him up in fantasy when he was getting hot last year, and then he just kind of, I don't know what it was, but he was so frustrating, and I saw him on your guys' depth chart, and I was like, absolutely not. He can stay right where he is until he proves to me otherwise, maybe next year. But that was one guy I was definitely like, nope, no shot.
All right, Jacob, same question.
I mean, I didn't put anybody on my list that didn't deserve honorable mention, so...
No. I mean, there was, when you were making your list, Jacob, the guys that when you're going through names and you hit that name and you're like, oh hell no, I would never write that dude's name down in this situation.
How about like all of the Bengals offensive line? Like for real, I don't think I had anybody on there. Jonah Williams is the only guy that is possibly going to be really good, but he hasn't played due to injury. Their line is just horrible. So when I was looking at O-line, Cincinnati was not the place.
All right, I want to go ahead, Sam.
Talk about that clip of Burrow just getting hunted down by the Bengals defensive line. I mean, he is in trouble if they can't figure it out over there. That I've watched that GIF probably 10 times, and look, Burrow looks good coming out of that blitz and getting out of there. But man, his offensive line is going to get him hurt.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your guys' thoughts on Joe Burrow? What do you think of him? Is he? Because I'm going to tell you what I think of him, but what's your views on him?
Jake, I'll let you go first.
Yeah,
I think
the
he's a
AFC
really
North guy.
Yeah, he's a really smart quarterback. Had the best college football season ever. I don't think he has the best. He doesn't have the best arm talent or arm strength out of all of the guys that came out of the draft or anybody in the league. He's better than average in some of those areas, but you put the right team around him, and he can be successful in a playoff quarterback. I think it's going to take some time in Cincinnati. They haven't built enough there yet.
What about you there, Sam?
So I'm just kind of now getting into like scouting players and stuff. Definitely an area I'm still kind of learning and stuff. But you guys ever heard of the word moxie?
Johnny Moxon?
Yeah. No, moxie.
Oh, moxie. Yeah, that's like an old word, Sam. Come on now.
Joe Burrow's got moxie. When I watched him play at LSU, like there's just not like it looks like he's got a veteran's confidence and swagger. He just knows who he is. Like I don't know how. I mean, in terms of how he's going to play this year, I don't think the Bengals are going to be great. But I definitely think I could see Burrow winning him a couple games just because, again, I think he's a confident quarterback. You know, I'm hoping, obviously, if he has A.J. Green, that'll help him a little bit. Do I think he's going to light up the league this year? Absolutely not. I don't think the Bengals have done enough to really solidify him long term. Do I think this year he'll be okay? Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, remains to be seen. I watched that clip of him getting chased by his whole defense and get a little nervous for him. But, you know, like I said, he's got moxie. I like his confidence. I like his swagger.
All right, couple questions for you. Was Chad Pennington as a first-round pick a bust?
He ended up with a pretty long career.
I'm talking in the context of what you expect a quarterback picked in the first round to be. Is he a bust?
Yes.
Okay. Did he have moxie?
A little bit.
Okay. Did Matt Schaub have a great deal of moxie? before he started being the pick six king.
I see where you're going at here. Yes.
Joe
like
Burrow is a quarterback that has a lot of moxie that when I watch this film screams bust. 65% of those big plays, I'm telling you, Jake and Sam, I believe that Joe Burrow is a bust. You watch his film and those plays that were made in touchdowns, he over doubled. He almost tripled his touchdown passes, right? And his interception ratio went down. His yards per play more than doubled. But when you turn on the film, you're not getting away with that ball being short in a Hail Mary situation in the end of that LSU game and having Jefferson be able to moss a guy and reach out 2 yards in front of a DB. That ball's getting picked off, okay? And you put him in Cincinnati with swirling winds, terrible weather, in a bad field to play on? No, this ain't looking good for Joe Burrow. I am not a believer in Joe Burrow. I love his personality. He is a smart quarterback, but you got to have arm talent, and he does not have the arm talent. And his decision-making when the illness was put on him with the lack of talent around him, he made worse decisions and had much worse results. You put all that talent around him, and it's easier to make a decision. His numbers went up. He's not going to have that luxury in the NFL. He screams bust to me, and I have been told I was crazy from even Mark Lillibridge that's in our company. Bridges told me I'm crazy. I'm telling you, when I watch this film, I might only be 5 years into analyzing film, but I've taken notes from some of the top guys like Ben Fennell. I see a guy that's not going to be able to hack it in that weather in this league with that arm talent, despite his moxie and his NFL IQ or his football IQ. The arm talent's just lacking. Too bad. He's Chad Pennington, and he's Chad Pennington in a terrible, wind-swirling, winter, Cincinnati. Come on, man. With no offensive line? Pennington had the NFL rushing champion for several years running behind him.
Yeah. I was gonna say, who's your favorite guy from this draft of quarterbacks? Then I'm curious now.
I wasn't real high on any of the guys here. Herbert, I think, is one of those guys that's real tall and lanky and just doesn't have that Hall of Fame type of gumption to him, which maybe doesn't matter so much. And everybody else is just kind of a project guy. This quarterback class was one of those years where we're going to look back at it and it's going to be one of those like 2011 quarterback classes where guys were way overdrafted, they were overhyped. We looked at things and numbers and didn't pay attention to the actual tape is my prediction with this class. And it's going to start with Joe Burrow. That's fair. I mean, look, you know way more about this than I do for sure. And, respect your opinion. Absolutely. I don't really know. You definitely bring up some good points about Burrow. In terms of the rest of this draft class, you may be right about some of those things. I'm hoping Tua can kind of figure it out in Miami. I think it'd be cool to see him kind of figure it out there. But that's fair. I like those points. I like turning this around on you. I like turning this around, asking you questions. Well, Tua though he's the anomaly because if that injury heals, he's probably the creme de la creme. But the injury, his size, the amount of injuries and the frequency, that I'm not willing to put my neck out and say anything. The talent is undeniable there, but you can't make the club if you're in the tub. And so I'm not going to go out and put him at the top of this class yet until he can prove that he can be healthy and stay healthy in this league. Because I think the talent, he's by far the best quarterback, far and away in this class, but you have to consider the injuries and the availability there, and he has a huge issue there.
Yeah, totally fair.
All right, so I'm gonna do this one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. The best running back in this rookie class that you guys see in each division. In your AFC division, I'll let you guys both go AFC and NFC. Your rookie running back class that you like in the two divisions, you get to pick one from each.
I mean, for me, I think it's a no-brainer. J.K. Dobbins. He could have easily been RB1. He went in the second round. Baltimore was able to get him at 55, and they're just going to be laughing at the rest of the league that didn't take him.
Ooh. And who would you take from the NFC North then, Jacob?
Probably DeAndre Swift. I got to go with my Georgia guy.
Yeah, I think that can be a close one between him and a couple of the other guys. But Swift definitely, I think, had the most prominent career of the rookies in the NFC North and the running back. All right, Sam, we're up. Oh, go ahead, Jake.
I was going to say, I'll add that the most viral running back right now from the NFC North has to be A.J. Dillon from the Packers with his legs. They're like comparing him to Saquon. He's got tree trunks. Might be bigger. Yeah.
He weighs more, so I think they're bigger. I think he wins because he outweighs Saquon by 15 pounds. He's 252 or something like that. Saquon's like 230. All right, Sam, you're up. AFC, NFC North, rookie running backs. Who you got?
I think I'm taking the exact same two guys as Jake. I think I've been seeing a lot of stuff about Swift, how people have been comparing him to Alvin Kamara. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. I'm not a huge follower into all the other rookie running backs in the AFC North, but I like both the guys Jake picked. I'm going right with him, tagging right to his head.
Man.
Sam, you're such a hoser sometimes. I mean, like, do you know how content creating, and parody and interesting topics come about by not just saying, yeah, what he said.
Look, I like both those guys, and Jake got to answer.
Doesn't matter. First. You know what? Fine, I'm gonna make it interesting. You're both.
He's gonna go with Anthony McFarland.
No, you're both wrong. It's A.J. Dillon because A.J. Dillon is going to be the most likely to be. No, he's going to be the most likely to be able to replicate what Derrick Henry is doing down in Tennessee. Who is you want to tackle A.J. Dillon right now? 6'3", 252 pounds in December, coming downhill at you at 21 miles an hour? I don't think so, okay? So, I love the other guys, but they're not the load to take down as him. And in the AFC North, God, what was the kid in Anthony McFarland Jr., I think is going to be
that's the name I said you would say.
I think that kid is going to Yep, I think that kid is just going to he's going to light up that division because they have a need and a want to have a back with his skill set. That's why Le'Veon Bell was so good there. And Anthony McFarland Jr. can I think he has got all the talent in the world to be able to pick that up. And so I think just by the way they want to use him, it's going to make him the best rookie running back in the AFC North. How did you – and Jacob, I'm interested. Why the hell did you say I was going to say that name? How are you already getting in my head? I want to know that.
Because he's a Steeler guy. You got to go with the opposite. You go Raven, then you go Steeler. Anthony McFarland's out of Maryland. He's a speed guy. They used to have the triplets in Pittsburgh with Lev Bell, AB, and a Big Ben. So it just makes sense to go with the running back that they drafted.
Oh, Jesus. That was not my consideration at all, so whatever, Jacob.
Hey, let me ask you something really quick, though, because the Packers already have a pretty solid run game settled. Where does Dillon fall in terms of this depth chart? And you think he's able to overtake either of those guys as starting jobs?
He is the starting first down, second down running back, but that does not take Aaron Jones off the field. That puts Aaron Jones – think of weeks 4 through 9. Weeks 4 through 9, and when they exploded, why did they explode? Jay Swaggy, number 30, Jamal Williams was lined up as the tailback, and you had no idea where the hell Aaron Jones was going to be or where he was going to end up. They were passing him the ball, they're swinging him, double screens, double actions where he would come in motion, come to the backfield, get the ball, Jamal would be faking it. They did so much with him, but because they didn't have that third back that they wanted in Dexter Williams to be dependent, and the other guys they tried just didn't give them the production that they wanted, they ended up having to ride the Aaron Jones train in a way in which they do not want to utilize him. He is an offensive weapon, much in the light of a first or second year Tyreek Hill, with minus the speed. Okay, obviously, but think of that type of player where just an offensive weapon. I don't care what his number is or what position he says he's on the depth chart. You just don't know where he's going to be, and you have to find him and identify him each and every down and figure out how they're using him. And that's going to be hard because then you're going to have a 250-pound back there that if you get too much concentrated on where Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams is, the next thing you're going to know is getting steamrolled by Derrick Henry, the King Jr. That's just the way I see their offense breaking down. And we were talking about that with Hembo on the episode of TTB right before I came on this show tonight. It's like back-to-back 2.5 hours podcasting. Crazy.
See, I set you up to even plug your own podcast in. You're welcome.
I love you, Sam. You're quickly becoming one of my favorite people at the network now, even though you're a Bears fan.
Yeah, there it is. That's going to always keep me down.
Jake's always going to have an edge over you because he's, the Ravens, and they used to be the Browns, and I feel bad for them, and they actually, won Super Bowls recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up for the night. Final word. We'll get out of here until next week for you guys.
Honestly, great pod. Excited for next week, kind of to match up again. Excited to see who you're going to pick, Jake. I'm looking forward to building those rosters, seeing who your big bruisers are coming in. I'm pumped. I got some good names already listed. I've been doing a lot of research for this. I'm excited for next week.
I'm super excited too. I'm very ready for the O-line and D-line, and ready to see what the listeners think.
Yeah, we're going to discuss this after we get off air. We're going to figure out how to put this up on a poll so we can figure out how to get these guys some interaction. So you're going to want to look for that coming out from us and the Brawl Network. Follow them at Network Brawl on Twitter. We'll get a poll out on that account and all that. So yeah, we're going to get out of here for the night, guys. Great job. Great show. It's getting better and better every time we talk, and I look forward to seeing where you guys go with your teams next week, quite honestly.
I got my fans.
Hit these guys up on the Twitter. Sam for the Bears is Sam Stevenson at SJSteve9. And for all your Ravens, Brawl Network, and hit us up on IG by also searching Network Brawl. I'm out of here till tomorrow. These guys are out of here until next Wednesday. Peace out. Much love.
Now look me in the eyes and put your hand in mine. Forever's about to happen right here in this moment of time. So let's draw a line right here in the sand. And let me say that on this very day is the day that we took a stand. Cause not just a game, it's more than a game. It's more than the hurt, it's more than the pain. It's more than the glory, it's more than the fame. This right here is about legacy, man, so it's bigger than me, it's bigger than us. We can lose sight in the midst of the fuss. Let's slow it down and take it in. Enjoy this moment, what's the rush? They want it bad, but we want it more. This is what we've been waiting for. With tears in our eyes, we let our hearts roar. Unleash war when we walk out this door. We won't be delayed, we won't be denied. In the end, we won't refuse with clear eyes, a full heart. There's no way that we can lose.